My name is Celia Xavier, and my experience in the film business has been with traditional filmmaking and mostly documentaries. And it's only within the past 6 months have I even heard of the verticals. And it came about because I was looking for work as crew. I do UPM, production coordinator, producing, and that really dried up significantly. But what I did see were people posting that they needed actors and stuff. So after a long hiatus of not acting, I submitted to some of these and auditioned and would get booked. So I just thought, well, that's so from left field because that's nothing that was on my radar at all. And so that's how I got into the verticals because they have so much casting availability for somebody like me. And I'm all for that. So I'm just thrilled. And then I realized that I wanted to also I love writing and I'm passionate about writing and I've written quite a few scripts and I wanted to get into that. But so many of the platforms, they would always say, well, you need vertical experience. And so I got this harebrained idea to produce 10 episodes of a vertical um, and to get experience. And that was a great experience because it just happened to be the time where Real Short was having their contest. And I always say it was by the grace of God, their deadline was extended an extra 30 days. If they had not done that, I would have never been able to submit because we were backed up for as far as the location went. We were not able to get our location until September. So we were able to submit the 10 episodes into the contest and just on the last day. And we are ranked number 12 in all there. It's just amazing how many views. We have like 70,000 views in 2 weeks. And it really, we're not even on their main page, right? We're in the contest division. And so it proved to me that there's this massive audience that are digesting these shorts. And I'm just so curious as to, I would love to interview some of the people who are watching my content to see what it is that they liked about it and what caught their eye, all that.
Could you share more about the Real Shot contest? Because I'm not very familiar with that.
So I saw on LinkedIn that Crazy Maple was offering a contest they were looking for new talent. And so I earmarked it and I thought, well, this could be interesting. Again, I had no experience except traditional writing, but I wanted to take up the challenge. So they had different categories such as romance, suspense, and beyond genre, and then a fan-based category that you could write for and produce. So I made something that was a little more considered beyond genre, but it had definitely romance in it. And it was based on something that is grounded in my life. And then, of course, I added some fictionalized versions of it. And I went for 10 episodes because I'm crazy like that, right? So we shot 10 episodes in one day at one location that had five different sets. And again, it during the editing process is where I really learned the most about the vertical business, right? To have the timing of where the episode ends and how it starts again. So that was just very, very learning education, but with the editing. And so then the way the people vote is just by watching, right? So we just shared, and all the other actors just shared, and very quickly went up the ranks. Again, I can't tell you why. I think I did change the title from Tangled Hearts to a more of a title that fits the verticals. So it's I'm in love with my daughter's fake baby daddy. That could have something to do with it. I'm not sure, but let's see. We have I think maybe 10 more days, and then the voting for the public is done. But Real Shorts, it's now in their hands to see where the final rankings go, and we'll find out. But it did really well. I'm very proud of everyone that was involved.
Congratulations on that. For the first 10 episodes, your company founded that, right?
Yes. So I wrote it, directed it, and was acting in it. But I would love to shoot the whole thing over. Now, like I said, where I saw in editing, what I learned in editing was so drastic that I would love to shoot it all over again, the whole thing.
What do you learn from the editing? Are the real shot give you any suggestions, or what?
No. No, they did not. The only thing they said was it had to be 45 seconds minimum each episode. What I learned was the beats. You want to start a little more in the middle of the scene and of course on what they call the cliffhanger or something that's going to keep the audience swiping. But now I really, really know.
When you write the first vertical script, how do you choose your topic and where do you find the inspiration?
Yes, this one was based on someone I dated. I have a lot of dating nightmare stories. So this was actually one of them. And it turns out that it's not uncommon that people do meet somebody that maybe doesn't speak fluent English. And so we were using Google Translate on the phone to communicate. And so that was sort of the inception, the seed for this story.
So it's like a comedy story.
No, no, no. It turns out that I see him as a fraud and that he's playing all these people. But what I have for the entire series is that he does have a hidden agenda as well, and so does my character, and so does my daughter. So we're just getting a taste of these people and where we think it's going, but of course there will be multiple twists along the way.
How do you design characters?
Usually it's based on people I know and real life situations. I have a saying that true life is way stranger than fiction could ever be. I know so many people who have just wild stories and lives that so my stuff is always grounded what I call in reality. There's something there that is definitely people can relate to. In other words, like finding out that somebody you're dating is married. That's something I think maybe a lot of people can relate to.
How do you capture the audience attention in just 10 seconds or 5 seconds? And when you do then the editing, is there anything you regret or you want to reshoot?
Right. I wish I would have shot a lot more footage, and a lot more of the people, of the actors when they were not acting. So in other words, when they're sitting there waiting for the cameras to run or for people to call action. The actors are usually sitting there and they have different expressions. And I wish I would have captured a lot more of that and just a lot more footage. How do you capture the audience's attention? It has to be a strong emotional hook or something. So we used she's pregnant, she's sick, she's married, he's cheating, those type of strong situations.
Why do you want to shoot this when people are sitting, actors are sitting relaxed? Why do you need those footages?
Because sometimes as a matter of fact, I did use in the very first scene, the very first episode, I did use the lead girl. She was sitting there waiting for the cameras to roll, and she's just sitting there, and it looks like she's thinking. And so I we used it in the editing to be like she's waiting for her first date, and the dialogue that's going through her mind is the text that I put there. So it was like, wow, it was golden footage that I didn't even know I had, right? And it just really saved, to me, it saved that scene because it gave a little bit of a prologue to the scene that I wouldn't have had normally.
It's monologue.
Just a little bit of question that she had, he doesn't speak English, so how's this going to work? Something like that. And it gives the audience a little taste of what's going on in the story before the story evolves. There was another time where I had the male actor, he was sitting there and he broke out into this laughter, but for some reason with the lighting and everything, it looked like a very evil laugh. It just did. So I was able to use that to show that maybe like he's an evil guy or something. So I was just things like that I love.
Yeah, when you do the shooting, it's like two camera shooting or three camera shooting.
Well, this one was just one. We did it on a real shoestring budget. Yes.
And about hooks and how do you create hooks?
That's a good question. You have to find out what it is, the characters, right? What is their flaws? And then you want to throw that character into a situation that they're not comfortable with. And then when they're pushed up against that situation is hopefully where that hook will come in. And then the audience is like, well, what is she going to do? We know that she's, I don't know, got ADHD or something like that. And we know she's not going to do well in this type of situation, or she's afraid of flying and now she has to fly. Is she going to freak out or whatever? So it's knowing their flaws and then putting them in a situation where you know that they're not going to do well.
What do you see the big difference between traditional film and TV and verticals?
Well, films are slow burns, right? To get to know the character. TV has those arcs. They set up a problem and then they solve the problem in the end of the TV show. Whereas verticals are, well, I call them emotional bombs, right? They're these immediate situations that cause an emotional reaction from the audience. And it's done through the actors' faces, their close-ups, their looks, their facial expressions, things like that. So it's just a more immediate emotional impact that it has.
You mentioned
Let's pause for a second. Imagine you're in a crowded marketplace. Vendors selling cakes, jewelries, all kinds of things. And you are one of vendors trying to sell a story. What kind of story will you tell? And more importantly, how do you keep people stop listening and actually pay? That's the narrative logic of short drama. I explain this in my book, Short Drama Writing 101. Write what platforms want. It's available on Payhip, Amazon, and Google Playbooks. Now let's back to the video.
about the emotional impact. How do you create emotional resonance with the audience?
Like I said, I think it has to be based in reality of something, right? Where the people can relate to it. It has to be that human connection that of being betrayed, of being lied to, of I'm just talking about this one script only, of that international emotion that people can still relate to over over language, right? It has to translate over all these different languages because I'm sure the 70,000 views we got are not just US, they have to be international as well.
In North America, most verticals are still dominated by CEO romance stories. In your point of view, what type of other stories can be explored and why?
I think they're starting to do more action, and I've heard of some people doing thrillers and horror even. I think it has to expand and grow, and that is how it will grow, is through the other genres that people are going to be creating.
How would you define short drama?
They are, everything is more immediate with these short verticals, right? There's no filler. There's no, everything is like the emotion is immediate shorts. And it makes for that you have to cut out a lot of stuff when you're writing. You don't really need it. And I noticed that they use text overlays,
What kind of content need to be cut out from the script?
dialogue that explains stuff that doesn't, you don't really need that. You can do that with a look or, maybe showing their hands, if they're tense or something, you can show it in their hands. And so you can do a lot with just the visual part of it as opposed to saying it. So yeah, I had to cut a lot of stuff.
Or can you
When I
give
was
me another example for that? What kind of content did you cut out?
Well, you don't need like a setup almost. You don't, so in other words, with traditional film writing, you kind of set up the scene and the location and the time of day or whatever. Well, so you just have that. You have the location, time of day, but you don't have to shoot the whole setup. In other words, like if you're at a high school or something, you don't have to say, well, it's right after lunch period and the kids are all sitting around. No, you don't. You just cut right to the drama at the lunch table.
Right. So maybe a wide shot of the high school for 1 second, then cut it in directly into
Yes.
middle shot.
Right. It almost makes me feel like the other way, the traditional way of filmmaking is antiquated. I don't know if anyone else has said that to you. So, in other words, AFM, American Film Market, is coming in November to our city, and I have no desire to even attend that because that old model of making films, even, it just seems just like it's a dinosaur to me, you know? After doing this and seeing the results immediately, the audience results immediately with no gatekeeper, right? In other words, there's no gatekeeper that happened to look at our script, looked at our film and said, well, well, I don't know if the audience is going to like this. No, we just put it out there and the audience liked it. And I love that about this vertical space. One friend of mine said, he said, a lot of people don't have time to watch like a whole movie nowadays, right? They have very limited time. And so that's why verticals are so easily consumed as well.
That's into short drama.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like,
I can give an example. Some people I interviewed said short drama verticals are escapism.
yes, definitely soap operas, definitely telenovelas, but supercharged almost, they're like on on crack. Soap operas on crack. How's that?
Do you feel you have certain advantage in short drama industry?
Well, as an actress, they always need that matriarch or that the woman who's in charge of the family, who's, not going to let her son marry trash. Um, and so people my age are in high demand there. And as far as writing and directing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the audience who consumes these are around my age too. And so I feel like my stories um, can resonate with them as a writer because
Yeah.
they know that younger men love older women right now. It's a trend.
As a woman, have you encountered any challenges while working in verticals?
Well, the one challenge I saw was when I attended the vertical market and I did meet with some of the producers of many, many verticals. And they said right now, because it's the Chinese coming to America wanting the American content, they are using a lot of Caucasian looking actors. And, to me, that's not representative of our country at all. And this person said, well, they're slow to, slowly, we'll get there. But I think that at least with my content, you can see that, we're not blonde hair, blue-eyed people. So I'm hoping to see a change in that area. So that to me was like an obstacle, but just something to be aware of.
I think those platforms, they still trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
American audience wants.
Oh, but I just want to add that I've just recently got cast for two big parts, one for Drama Wave and one for oh, I can't think of the other one. And it's as me. So it's not like, they are slowly putting people that of color in their stories. So I'm very happy about that.
From your observation, do you think the way female leads, because you perform in some verticals, do you think the way female leads are portrayed in short dramas have any issues or areas for improvement?
Well, yes. I think usually I think they will. I think they'll get, right now they're pretty strong, these women, right? Um, I mean, they start out maybe weak, but then they start getting a backbone within the story. And I think that, so they do have a character arc. Um, I I'm not opposed to seeing the way they're portrayed right now. I think my only issue is with the ethnicity. That's really
If you were create a female character in a vertical, what kind of female character?
probably an assassin.
Female assassin. Cool.
Yeah, probably somebody who takes out like all the people who are insane or something, you know.
Is there any story that women would love to see in short dramas but haven't been told yet?
Yes, I think where again it's the genre of thrillers and horrors where it's actually the main character that is maybe solving the situation versus like the police solving it, getting involved and solving it and stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room there for expanding into those other genres to be telling further stories. Mystery is always good. Those are the kind of things that I love thrillers, and I'm a huge Korean thriller fan, and I love the way that they make their films. So that's actually what I love writing the most are thrillers. I just haven't figured out how to do it as a vertical.
Do you think that's really what happened? Like it were
I
in
don't think it'll replace. I think as things get more expensive for people to go out, it's very expensive for a family to go out to the movies here in California, for instance. And if they can enjoy, oh, that's the other thing. I think family dramas would be a good one as well. And if they can enjoy a family series together at home in the comfort of their own home, I think that could be very great. So yeah, as things get more expensive, it's just easier just to stay home and watch. Do you
have a
think?
question based on the family drama. So
Yeah.
since it's played on vertical foam, like how everyone, like let's say a small family, how can they enjoy one vertical in their foam together?
Well, that's where I do think the other part of that question, where I see it going, is also more interactive. In other words, I do think that each person, for instance, could have their own phone and interact have their own ending that they would like, maybe through AI or some other form. I'm not sure how yet. And so you can have the same family watching and have like different results of an ending based on who's watching and things like that. But I do know we're watching our 2 year old. She's not my grandchild, but she's like my friend's baby. And she watches Bluey on her phone all the time. You know, Bluey, it's a little series. So at 2 years old, they're already watching content on their phone at 2 years old. So, I do think that it's going to evolve to where they're going to be watching these children shows, possibly on verticals for kids.
We don't have this in China, like for kids.
No?
We do have for young people. So AI
Mm.
motion comics, but we don't have those for kids.